us. EthAum is a deep tech accelerator and fund based out of Singapore. We have approximately 90 startups from different parts of the world. Monitair is one of the startups that recently joined our program, and they are highly focused on improving indoor air quality and creating sustainability in the real estate space. And that's why we are hosting this fantastic panel today with a focus on real estate IAQ and sustainability with our fantastic panelists, Vivek, Gurpreet, and Ravindra. Now, without further delay, I would request Edward to do a brief intro of Monitair, and then I would request our panelists to do an introduction of themselves, and then we'll get into the panel discussion. Edward, please go ahead.
Thank you, Pankaj, for having us, Monitair, in the call. So my name is Edward Shi. I am a sales director at Monitair Solutions in charge of the Asia Pacific region. So our company specializes in end-to-end air quality treatment and monitoring solutions. So we offer a comprehensive indoor air quality solution for different applications. So we provide the latest IAQ technology, which include filterless device, which has bipolar ionization technology component, which acts as an air purification system, and also easy to install IAQ sensors, measuring IAQ parameters, and providing end user with dashboard access. Thank you, Pankaj.
Thanks a lot, Edward. Vivek, may I request you to do an intro?
Yeah, hi all. Hope you guys can hear me well. So my name is Vivek Krishan. I work with CBRE as the Executive Director of Operations and Platform. And I'm sure everybody understands CBRE is the largest real estate firm today across the globe. I have approximately 32 odd years of experience across sales, marketing, project management, P&L ownership for the automobile, HVAC, IT services, and real estate industries. I'm quite passionate about animals and wildlife in general. And fundamentally, I'm really passionate about sustainable living. So this is a topic right up my alley. Thank you so much for having me on this panel.
Thanks a lot, Vivek. Appreciate it. Gurpreet?
Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Gurpreet Maini. I am a real estate professional with over 25 years of experience. Recently, I was working with the World Bank Group in Washington, D.C. as an expert consultant, supporting them on their corporate real estate, facility management, sustainability, and energy aspects. Prior to that, I was a director in the project management business unit with Maidal Futtaim Properties in Dubai, UAE, looking at their overall asset development in terms of new developments coming up in the mall and hotel segment, as well as looking at their existing assets and looking at energy efficiency, optimization, indoor air quality, and utility optimization requirements for the existing assets, whether it be the hotels, the malls, office buildings, or their residential developments that they have all over the Middle East and Africa region. I am a certified project director, a project management professional, a lead accredited professional, a certified energy manager, and hold various other certifications in this field. It's a great pleasure to meet you all and be part of this panel. Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks a lot, Gurpreet. Now I would request Edward to start with the questions that he got.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, gentlemen. So today's session, we have a few questions which we have specialists here in the panel, which we can get some insights for our audience. So the first question, I guess maybe Vivek can help us. The first question is, what are the most painful challenges that you think real estate sustainability leaders are concerned about?
Interesting question. So I think three key areas are where there are our real estate, sustainability leaders have challenges. The first is, I think we all need to understand sustainability is not just another program that needs to be implemented, right? It's a fundamental mindset change and needs to be incorporated actually in the culture and DNA of the organization. it really starts bringing the value or the desired effect or positive impact on the company, whether it's on the reputation or the bottom line or profitability or employee satisfaction or all of that. So fundamentally, the first thing that comes to my mind is it's not another program to be implemented. It is a mindset and culture change. The second is that while many companies across the globe, and now this is increasing, is that these companies have signed their climate pledges, right? They've made a commitment on the climate pledge. However, I think, and I'm sure this is an evolution, but I think we now need to get to a level of clear, sustainable business strategy needs to be defined by the organizations. While they have committed to a climate pledge, but it's important to bring in a clear business strategy behind it. So what is the operating model? What are the financials? What are the go-to-market? Where do we bring in segmentation, client interactions, supply chain, procurement policies? The whole piece needs to come together to be able to hit that milestone or that commitment or climate pledge that companies have had. And that is a very important aspect. So we really need to make it real now, apart from the pledge. So that's number two. And number three, I think the ecosystem. Now, while one company may do all things right, but one company is just one company, right? And without that, without the ecosystem moving along, it just doesn't catch up. And therefore, when I say ecosystem, we've got the suppliers, we've got the clients, the manufacturers, all teams related or, coming together that work around the real estate, or even to that matter, outside real estate, need to come together on the sustainability topic. So this needs to be discussed in industry bodies, in associations, and, mind share has to happen so that everybody's aligned and are taking concrete steps to move forward. So to me, these are the three key areas in terms of challenges. As of today, it's an evolving journey. So I guess this will increase or decrease. I don't know what's coming in the future, but definitely.
Yeah, thank you. That's a very good insight. In fact, I got some points which I will summarize later on. So before if I can move on, if Gurpreet, are you able to share some of your insights?
I mean, Vivek has very succinctly put across what the current situation is. I think I'll just add a couple of items to that list, which is in regards to internal, external stakeholder communication, which is extremely important. I think the top-down, bottom-up approach is required as far as sustainability is concerned. It is not something that one person does. It is something that is a cultural shift in an organization, in the workplace or outside. And the ideology and the roadmap needs to be communicated clearly so that each of the stakeholders within the organization can come together and support in achieving the goals that we are committed to. The second aspect that I would like to highlight is that sustainability is not something that you can just pick up and run with. There is a skill set that is involved, which people need to develop, which might be missing in various members of the organization. And I believe training is a major requirement in today's age. And developing that skill set is extremely important to ensure that the entire organization is moving towards the same goal. Thank you.
Great.
And Edward, if I may interject, we have Ravin on the call now. So I would request Ravin to do a brief intro and then probably take this question on existing challenges that real estate leaders or sustainability leaders are facing, are concerned about.
Ravin. Thanks, Pankaj. And I'm really sorry. I'll just short of a couple of minutes. But then, I think, I'm Ravin. I lead the innovation agenda for Carrier Digital. And a Carrier as a major player in the sustainability business, I think it's imperative for us as well to really see how we can contribute in terms of our United Sustainability Goals. And I think as per the research says, right, 40% of the consumption of energy is coming through these buildings. So any efforts or any innovation that should happen, I think if we can channelize that and direct that towards the buildings, smart buildings, I think that's where I see a big opportunity. And I think every company is looking at ESG as a very core driver. And right from fund managers looking at companies on the ESG scores, and people like you, Pankaj, we also looking at sustainability, startups and portfolios. I think this trend will continue to grow, and we are living in a place where energy usage will continue to grow, and we need to be more smarter and be more efficient in how we do things. So I think with that in mind, at least the two challenges, maybe to just add on to the other panel members. So one thing is, I think we are seeing increased devices or penetration of devices inside these buildings. So that's another opportunity which we see that some devices, they don't talk in the same protocols. So a fire alarm will talk to a different protocol, and HVAC, BMS will talk to a different protocol. So it's good in the future if we have one standard protocols for all the M2M devices. That could be an interesting way forward. And the second way forward is, I think, I know there's a lot of work being done on collecting these carbon emissions, but I think there's still a lot of gap in terms of how do you make it more streamlined, how do you quantify it. I think that's where I think few of the sustainability managers whom I spoke with did mention that, okay, I can just say 1 gigaton savings, but then is it actually a savings, or is it just a forecasted number? I think those are some areas which I think that still needs to develop, and I think as an industry that will evolve as we go forward. Thanks for the question.
Thank you, Ravin. For this question, I think it kind of recalls my past life as an enterprise software solutions sales, which we need to implement projects. And I think what Vivek talked about, the mindset, and also same as Gurpreet talked about how the top management really need to distill the strategy and also explain the roadmap for people to actually carry out this whole session. So yeah, so sustainability, I would think, is going to be facing the same challenges that all people need to buy in from bottom up side as well. So if I can, the second question that we have for the panel, perhaps this time for Gurpreet. So what are the innovations and new solutions in the real estate space which you are excited about?
Thanks, Edward. I mean, there are quite a few innovations and new solutions that we've been looking at over the last few years, especially during COVID, which have made a huge impact in the market. I would identify big data and analytics, virtual and augmented reality, Internet of Things, AI and machine learning, blockchain and asset tokenization, as well as digital twins as some very innovative solutions that are being implemented in the real estate segment today. They're having a huge impact on the way you deal with the development of these real estate developments, looking at the sales aspect of it, looking at energy optimization, facility management, asset management, and asset trading for that matter, with the blockchain coming into the picture. These are pretty interesting innovations and new solutions that we are looking at in the market today.
Great, thank you. And shall we have also Ravin to add on any kind of insights?
Yeah, I think Gurpreet covered a lot, most of it, to be honest. Yeah, I think especially areas like digital twins, I think that's going to be a big area of interest, because I think not only we want to make sure that the devices inside the building are connected and the data is flowing in, but the customers or the building owners would definitely want to see, in the event of a fire, okay, which floor the fire is actually happening. So that data can be relayed back to the emergency team, and we can also use the occupancy data inside these buildings to also assess, okay, on floor number 10, South Wing, we have 10 people that are stuck. So instead of relying on traditional people counting access control data, I think now we have more efficient way of collecting data, that mix of both analytics as well as sensors to get put together can be the next big thing, is what my view. And of course, I think companies like, air purification is a big area. I think with the increasing levels of pollution and a lot of work that's been happening, I think not only we want to make sure that the workplaces or buildings are smart, but we also want to make sure that the quality of life that is offered to the residents is also quite high in the long term. Not only speaking from carrier standpoint, but I think in general, I think we all want to have pure air around this. So I think it's also these two things is the two areas which I strongly believe will accelerate in coming years.
I see. Okay, thank you. And with Vivek, I understand you have vast experience back in the software side for the last 20 years plus in the Asia Pacific side. And especially, I see you're passionate on the data and analytics side. So for this type of new and upcoming technology, which are the ones that you feel is most interesting to you?
So I would spin it a bit differently. The first is, incorporation of wellness in the design of a space. That is now a science. Earlier, we used to think, okay, so just get some air purification, just get some, purifiers in the system, and think we have done a great job. But now the whole design of the workspace, for example, whether we are in a hybrid mode or whether we are in a collaboration mode, what is the air purification, what is the number of air changes that have to happen, all of that, the whole wellness component has become a science. And to me, that is brilliant innovation. That's first. Second, research on sustainable materials. This has increased multifold. So we can't just go back and say, okay, so we can pour a bunch of concrete and start, or make a wall of material that we'll have to junk or throw into landscape if we have to change, right? So that whole sustainable material aspect has, the research has really increased multifold. And that to me is the future. And the third is, of course, digitization, as just mentioned. But I would like to take everyone to, for example, to me, a carbon calculator for a space, for a building, for the real estate industry should be to the level of what we can, we walk from point A to point B and we know how many calories we burnt, right? And it's on our wrist for all that matter. My point is, can we get to a carbon calculator? I know it's evolution, there's lots of companies doing this, but can we build a carbon calculator that is so simple for the project managers, for the occupiers, for the real estate landlords, that they can pinpoint what is my carbon footprint at any one point of time? It's like continuous stream of there's any change in the system, number of people coming in, going out, my energy consumption, and it's just there. And you can actually monitor it during the day. That to me is super innovation. And it's coming, it's not far away. There's so many companies who are trying to build a carbon calculator, but still need some amount of evolution.
Yeah, thank you. I think we talked about the innovations. There are so many solution subsets that is happening. I think one of the point which all of you also mentioned is about the real-time data analytics side, which we need, all these data to be ready to be able to action upon. So that brings me to the next question. In fact, how do you see the space evolving in the next 5 to 10 years? Maybe this time we can start with Ravin.
Yeah, I think Vivek brought in some very good insights in these topics. So yeah, I think the next 5 years, right? I think we'll see every building or every real estate owner or community would be able to control everything on their phone, right? I think nowadays there's still a lot of human element. Still, you see a lot of 5 panels that are installed on the basement of these buildings. But I think going forward, I think with most organization looking at cloud solutions, I think everything will be available at a fly. And not only that, they'll have a digital twin of the building available on their phone, so that it's easy to track the AQI data or the purity data, or what kind of optimal temperatures we need to maintain inside, how much is sensory count, how many people are inside the building, which areas are more densely populated. Can I have more? Another area which I think in the next 5 years could be hyper localization. So I think we are seeing a lot of demand from companies saying that, okay, can I offer hyper level cooling for specific parts of a building? So I think I still remember when I went to the UK maybe 8 years back to one of my client's office. So they gave me an app which I can install, and I can even set my own temperature in that space. So it's just a very hardly maybe a 60 square feet area, and they're able to give such level of localization experience for the employee in that building. So and the funny part is the controls are very weak at that point. So I can even control, let's say, Pankaj's meeting room's temperature. So it's not safe there, but I think we'll see a lot of evolution there. So you need to have a very strong cybersecurity governance that will come in once we have connecting all these devices into the cloud. And then hyperlocalization is one area, and the air purification, of course. I think that's a constant evolution. I think we have seen the evolution of HEPA filters coming in, but then I think you'll see the next HEPA plus or HEPA upgrades that will give us more efficient. Company like Monitair, I think you're working in the same direction. So I think that's definitely a lot of interest for smart consumers as well as for companies in this space as well to look forward.
Thank you, Ravin. And for Gurpreet, I understand you've been helping quite a lot of developers with the design and the implementation and the project management, and also after services maintenance side. So how do you feel this space will evolve in the upcoming future?
I'm just bouncing off what Vivek and Ravin have mentioned in the previous query and this one. IoT, artificial intelligence, and machine learning, these 3 functions, when they come together in a development, they'll eliminate the need to trade off health and wellness in buildings for any increased energy costs. It'll be so intelligent that buildings will be able to self-automate and self-regulate themselves to optimize the energy balance within the development itself. If you refer to the IoT analytics, the global IoT sector was worth around $150 billion in 2018. It is now poised to exceed $1.5 trillion by 2025. That just gives you an idea of what this sector is advancing to and what the growth in this sector will be. Similarly, the worldwide blockchain sector is expected to grow to $3 billion in 2020 and up to $39 billion by 2025. McKinsey has done a lot of research in this segment as well, and they've identified that real estate applications based on machine learning models can also help predict rent changes with 90% accuracy, while changes in other property metrics can be predicted to an accuracy of almost around 60%. Hence, this technology helps developers themselves evolve and provide more value for money for the consumers as well. So I believe this overall space is a huge segment in the market, and we'll see many players coming into the segment now and coming up with various innovative solutions for developers, for project managers to refer back to. And just going back to one thing that Vivek had mentioned, Vivek, in regards to the carbon calculator that you're talking about, there is a technology, or there is a tool that's available in the market, which was developed by the World Bank Group, by the IFC, which is based on EDGE. So your EDGE certification does allow a developer from the start of the development, during the initial feasibility assessment stage itself, all the way through construction, and then through to asset management, to review how the overall greenhouse gas emissions for each and every product that is being used, or the energy usage, or the water usage is being managed through the overall feasibility, design, construction, and asset management scope. So there are tools available. Like I said, training and communication is key. A lot of people aren't aware of those things. And I think once people start becoming aware of these things, you'll see a lot more developers utilizing those tools and actually highlighting it to consumers and showcasing how their product is much more sustainable and much more efficient than what is available in the market currently. So those tools are there, and they are being improved on. And one day we'll all have it on our wristwatch again.
I'm foreseeing that in the near future.
Thank you. So anything for Vivek that you can add to this subject?
So I just want to make just one point. The sustainability in and decarbonization in the real estate is the absolute future. And just as was mentioned, there are multiple McKinsey studies. The last one that I saw, the capital spending on physical assets for or physical assets on projects for decarbonization and renewing critical infrastructure is $130 trillion market. So it's not a small market that we're talking about, and the future is now. So that means that everything we have, we need to run much faster just to stay in the same place. So to me, that is the market size. And yes, you can give or take some percentage of the estimates. But the point is, it is a fairly significant market. Everything you can throw at it will still be less. So therefore, the faster we move, we'll still stay in the same place.
Thank you. Yeah, to summarize this question, I think it kind of reminds us of an old movie, kind of like future type of movie, Blade Runner, right? So somebody goes home and the building would not only greet ourselves and personalize to the way that, how we like it. So if I may, for the next question, the question is, how important do you think a role of the AI, we talked about also machine learning or blockchain or even data science, would play in the disruption in this space? Can we start with Gurpreet, maybe?
Sure. Thank you, Edward. I am a big fan of AI, machine learning, and data analytics. In the year 2018, I was appointed as the team lead by EthAum Properties to manage the overall asset base and see how we could optimize their assets on the utility and facility management side of things. And it was a considerable spend for the developer, and they wanted to see how we could optimize it. For a cost of almost 1.2 billion dirhams per annum across their various assets across the Middle East and Africa region, we were able to identify initiatives within each of those assets to the tune of to an implementation cost of approximately 97 million dirhams, and were able to achieve a 10% reduction in energy consumption within a year. Just imagine the impact that has on the bottom line for the company, and how they can utilize that and monetize that saving for future developments. And all that was possible because of artificial intelligence, implementing technologies from companies like Siemens, Carrier, and Honeywell into the buildings, looking at various trade-offs on the lighting aspects, on the water efficiency aspects, and just trying to optimize and bring buildings up to standard, up to the current standard from when they were built, has caused that kind of a change. And this was possible in a matter of a year. So just imagine if this is done on a regular basis and it is a continuous process, how quickly organizations like EthAum or the World Bank Group can get to the net zero, net positive targets that they have committed to. We developed a roadmap based on that strategy that we had implemented, and they have gradually been showcasing savings on a regular basis. If you look at the sustainability reports, they'll be showcasing savings of almost 25 to 30% from the benchmark year of 2016, which is a big deal. It is not a small number that we're talking about. So I believe that artificial intelligence, machine learning will disrupt the space in a big way. Blockchain will have an impact on all facets of real estate development, from sales to operations, maintenance, asset facility management, energy management, as well as what I discussed previously in terms of tokenization and asset trading, which will become a big thing in the coming days as well. It is already a pretty significant market in Europe and US. I think it'll be a big market in Southeast Asia and the Middle East, Africa region pretty soon as well.
All right, great, thank you. And if I may ask, Vivek, in the property management space, is there any kind of implementation, where like to find out of these AI or machine learnings?
I think, like how we all say, right? What you cannot measure, you cannot control. So we talked about IoT devices. We talked about connectedness of these IoT devices to be able to provide dashboards to the teams, to the relevant leaders in the industry, to the engineers. So in my view, while it has been put very clearly, in my just 2 cents on this would be AI, ML, blockchain, data science will absolutely transform how we look at real estate and how we work with real estate. There's no question about it. And more importantly, it will help the work that is being done by engineers, by plumbers, by electricians, by designers, architects. That's where the real benefit will come. You're building a new, you're setting up a new, you're doing an interior fit out, for example. What designs need to come in? All that will come through data analytics, artificial intelligence. So no question there. That is the future.
Great, thank you. And for Ravin, is there anything from the equipment manufacturer side have been doing research or any kind of product design using this technology?
Yeah, I think a large portion of our strategy is to get these devices connected. So we do have millions of devices or HVAC units in 30 million residents in the US, let's say, but we don't have the data of these 30 million HVAC units. So I think that is our strategy, is to enable these connectivities first and use AI engine on top of it to predict when I should change my filter. If it is it a filter issue or is it something else? And use our existing databases and to figure out to the sales technician before he walks in to the particular home, can he carry what is needed? Because you can't expect to carry the entire bunch. It's normally the entire sales cycle, this maintenance cycle takes a couple of weeks, in fact, depending on the availability, depending on diagnosis. So can I make my after service so smooth? I think that's where a lot of OEMs are working in the same space to really push our aftermarket service using AI and drive a lot of benefits and to both our end customers, to give them more delight, as well as for our back-end operations will be more streamlined and yes, more streamlined.
No, it's very interesting. I think for this space, getting a large set of subset of database that the machine needs to learn would be a big part. And now we're still in the early stage. So
Yeah.
If I may, for the question, which is more adoption, maybe if I can ask Vivek to lead, is what do you think are the biggest hurdles in the adoption of all these new innovative solutions within our space?
So I go back to my first point, right? The biggest hurdles would be the fundamental mindset and culture shift of the teams. And when I say teams, it's everybody, right from the person who's pouring cement into the mold to the leaders who run the businesses. It's entire systems. And what that will do is that will enable the teams to actually let go of traditional mindsets and traditional practices that they have been implementing since years or decades. So it's a complete change. And we all know that real estate industry is catching up on the technology front, while most of the other industries have progressed quite a bit. Real estate is now picking up and moving forward. So it's going to be, would it be an easy journey? Definitely not. But will the industry get there? Most definitely. And that's what I was talking about when the ecosystem comes together, whether it's our clients or our suppliers or manufacturers, and each one is on their own path. And that will drive the pull for adoption. And yes, we'll have issues on the way, but I don't think any issue cannot be overcome. So that's my perspective on adoption. There will be hurdles, but if you're getting the right mindset, we have so much information available, and we're all passionate about sustainability, we will overcome the hurdles.
Okay, great, thank you. I think before I come to the perspective from property owner side first, can I ask perhaps Ravindra from the supplier manufacturer side, what you're seeing the biggest hurdle in the adoption of these technologies?
I think the first thing for me as a OEM, right? So we just wanted to make sure that every device that ships out can be connected. And once we have enough data, how do you keep this data checked? So how efficiently we're building our data lakes. Once we have enough data, okay, are my AI models effective to really give me those tangible outcomes I'm looking for? Can I add new revenue streams for me? So I think as an industry, as we go forward, I think we see adoption at every angle across the supply chain, right from, let's say in a factory setting, right? Let's say I'm currently got an order for 100 units, but there's a shortage in one location. If my model can predict, okay, this is the nearest plant you can source this raw material, and this is the average lead time you can have, and this is the transport cost, and still it is cost effective for me to get it internally sourced rather than wait for for my supplier to send us to the current plant. So I think these are all permutation combinations that the system should constantly do it. We humans tend to miss it in the large scheme of things. Once I think I can do it for 100, maybe 100 cases, but the moment it goes 10,000, I think it's not practically, I can't build a team of 1,000 people just to monitor these opportunities. I think that's where the real case comes in, and that's where the real technology will play a significant role there. And there will be challenges. I'm not saying that whatever data we feed into these models are accurate, So there will be a lot of data sanity checks, despite having legacy systems within organizations, we moving to a new platforms together. But then I think over time, I think we'll be in a shape where I'm at least 90% confident that this is something really valuable. So yeah, the challenge could be in moving towards cloud and realizing in our the challenges on the data issues, because if you're sourcing data from multiple ERPs in an organization, you know how difficult it could be to really standardize. So this is where large players would definitely will be working on, and I think yeah, that is what I feel as a challenge, to aggregate the data, and then how do you generate new revenue streams when we have the right data in place.
Thank you for the tips. I echo that. I think that leaves me for Gurpreet, which is from the property owner side, because that's what we are as a company also facing quite a lot in terms of technology adoption. What do you think are the challenges?
Thanks, Edward. I mean, I agree with Vivek and Ravin to a great extent. From my experience over the last 10 years that I've been looking at these aspects in the Middle East and Africa region, I would say data analytics and sustainability have been used as buzzwords quite often. And a lot of people don't really understand what data analytics or sustainability is all about. How do you develop use cases? How is the data distilled? How is the data segregated and showcased? How do you utilize the data that has been prepared to make appropriate decisions on various aspects? There is a certain amount of education and training that is required at every level of the organization. And unless that is implemented, it becomes very difficult for the mindset or cultural shift to happen. And there have been organizations around the world that have been very successful at doing it in an effective manner. They've put in appropriate strategy. They've put in appropriate training programs for their employees. They've put in a roadmap and given clear communication about what the way forward is, which makes it easier. I will not say that it is an easy transition, but it still makes life easier for people to understand where is the organization coming from, what is the perspective that they're coming from, how can we lend into that perspective and support the organization in achieving their goals and commitments. So I believe training, coordination between the various departments in an organization and the data analytics team is critical, because the data analytics team is someone who does not understand the intricacies of the day-to-day operations or day-to-day design requirements, etc. They need support. They need a technical support to understand the data that they're distilling. How is that to be utilized? What are the use cases that are to be created? And how can they be effectively utilized for optimization? So that's my take on that.
Thank you, Gurpreet, and thank you so much. And I think that also wraps up the panel session. For myself, you know, I've learned a lot, a great deal from the leaders of the panel. Really appreciate it. I think maybe also some insight for our audience as well. The word sustainability is not such a scary kind of unheard of or how to implement type of subject. I think, yes, you can see the industry leaders from asset management, from equipment supplier, manufacturer side, from the developer side, have been putting in a lot of innovative solutions in all these times. So it's not something that it hasn't started. And also same for us, as in Monitair, which we would explain a little bit about on what we do on the sustainability side. So thank you so much again, you know, for all your time. I guess I'll pass it back to Pankaj.
Fantastic, Edward. Really appreciate asking all these interesting questions. And thanks to Gurpreet, Vivek, and Ravindra for the fantastic insights. I completely agree with the point that many times sustainability just becomes a buzzword, right? Or word to attract investment, word to attract attention, media attention, and so on and so forth for some organizations. And startups are culprit of doing that. Big organizations are culprit of doing that. And I think one thing that I have realized is if there are marketing communication team, Marcom team, or PR team having that sustainability title, it means that it is very much a PR activity, and there are no real efforts going on in achieving that sustainability. So I think we have to look very closely. But yes, there are obviously organizations, startups, as well as big corporates who are putting a lot of efforts in achieving the sustainability, whether it is the carbon dashboards or energy efficiency dashboards, or utilizing digital twin technologies to have that right kind of view on the carbon consumption and things of that nature. I think there are a bunch of good organizations doing that work. Now, moving on to the next part of the event, we would love to get some brutal, honest feedback from our panelists on Monitair solution, right? And this is the piece that I really absolutely love, because most of the time startups are not able to get an honest feedback from the VCs or customers. And if you are not getting a brutal, honest feedback, then obviously you can't learn and improve. And that's why these kind of sessions are fantastic, because founders are able to learn, improve, and then grow. So please be completely honest with your feedback, no hesitation. And if end of the session, if Edward starts crying, don't worry about it. We'll send some chocolates for him. So don't worry about that. But yeah, Edward, please go ahead, start sharing your screen, do a quick 5-minute presentation, and then we'll take it from there.
Sure. Okay. I hope everyone can see the
Yes.
deck. All right. So thank you so much. So as I've explained, Monitair, we are using bipolar ionization technology to also build up a solution which would have information about air quality for our clients as well. And one of our vision is really to be able to use some of these data and to be able to improve the quality indoor for our users. So a little bit of a background of what we do. So we're founded for the last 3 years, just coincidence with the COVID. And because of the travel restrictions, we're pretty much limited in the Hong Kong, China side. The kind of customers that we work with would be from the property developers, portfolios such as commercial buildings, retail space, hotels, residential. We work with government bodies, NGO, schools. We also work with corporate offices as well. And the problems that we're seeing with the panelists or the specialists, we understand there's a lack of indoor kind of air quality being consistent to allow users to make actionable decisions based on the air quality parameters. So our solution basically is a 3-part. As you can see, the first one would be using our bipolar technology, and with the monitoring as number 2, which is inside the space, which would allow us to have a real-time actionable data. Couple of things bipolar ionization can do. It can help get rid of virus and bacteria by destroying the membrane of any kind of protein structure. So that way it can eliminate the cause of harm to human bodies. It can also reduce the indoor pollution such as the VOCs. So we would talk about that. We have gained lab tests from worldwide. Some of the applications we started off all the way. It can be from the AHU side at the supply air duct upstream. The devices can fit in quite comfortably all the way to the downstream to supplement the ions in the occupying space. So that is our objective. So maybe something more visual that what we are doing. So as we mentioned, the first step we like to monitor. So we set up sensors, we get the data, do the analytics, and we would install the treatment device. And based on that, improvement on particular matter reduction or TVOC reduction, or even in some cases, even well consultants ask us to do projects to get the well certification to attain certain standards. So this is the kind of methodology that we use. And probably most of you are familiar with the bipolar ionization. It is something that you may have come across more of a tube type or the brush type. The technology that these type of delivery would normally require our property management staff to clean over time or even replace. So our technology is a needle point patented solution, which would actually clean itself, self-maintain itself. So this kind of differentiate from what we do with other competitors. So just a wrap up on, what kind of value are we bringing? I think on a couple of fronts for any kind of indoor space and improve the hygiene environment, that would also, the next one, more on the maintenance side, as we explained, is more of a self-maintain solution. So it really helps facility managers to have a peace of mind. They don't need to do too much, but at the same time, they can still see the quality of the air. If we target to improve both staff and visitors' wellness. So during the whole entire journey of the experience, whether they are visiting a premises or any kind. So Pankaj, I understand my 5 minutes is up. I have some reference projects. If I may, I can just share. Okay, because since we are talking about wellness, we want to share with you these devices have been put in Hong Kong. There's an ambulance. We have very comfortably put into indoor in the cabin space to protect both the staff, driver, and also the patient. We talked about sustainability here in this subject. We have helped property owners in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDG goals, in the areas of health and safety and community investment. This is a case where they have renovated a canteen space, which holds about 150 staff, security, cleaning people, and also property management people. And then in order to avoid any kind of cross-contamination while eating or changing clothes, so we install the devices in a matter of 2 weeks, and they are able to achieve the KPI for the ESG side. As I explained earlier, we have helped achieving buildings, achieving well standards, both in the operation on the air quality and also on the thermal comfort. And in fact, there's one more, which is on the innovation side. So we have installed in hotels, which help increase spend for, and also customers, guests' safety, reduce sick leave. We are very much populated now in different type of venues, because elevators, lifts were not really considered too much of a space where we can deploy quite a lot of sanitization techniques. So this device is quite small and be able to fit in nicely. We mentioned about the AAQ installation. So these are the more of a larger devices we install upstream to help maintain the hygiene for the whole area of space, including fresh air's side as well, the PAUs. Government buildings, from design all the way to retrofit type of fit outs, it is literally invisible after it is installed. And then there are actually more applications that we are also exploring in terms of, like, for example, in the agricultural side. Tomatoes, especially the surface, is quite easy be damaged by like fungal kind of wounds. And with the bipolar ionization on in the lab, we found out it can actually extend the shelf life of 2 weeks. So it also helps with post-harvest kind of agricultural products. So yes, so this wraps up what I do a little bit over time, but thank you.
Okay, let's see what kind of questions you are going to get from the panelist. Vivek, Gurpreet.
So that was really good. The question comes to my mind is, so while we are looking at possible pathogens removal, what about odors? Does the system kind of neutralize odors? And odors not necessarily are pathogen related or things like that, right? They just smell odors that come or that happen. So does the system, resolve that piece also?
Yes, the solution, the technology, in fact, help reduce the VOCs of various kinds. The VOCs, in particular, the ones that we are more familiar with, would be after the office renovation, some of the materials, it will emit formaldehyde as one form. In toilets, it would be ammonia, NH3. And also for waste collection centers, the sewage type, it has the H2S and SO2 smell. So all of these the technology can handle. And at the same time, I must say that this is the technology which is safe to coexist with human beings while working. So because we understand some of the technology work also quite well in removing odor, for example, like ozone treatment. But it, with animals or humans nearby, it can cause nauseousness and sickness.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Okay, so the next question, so that's really good. So it takes care of most odors that happen. And I'm just thinking of applications like warehouses or industrial applications where there are going to be quite a lot of odors or not so much pathogens, but more gas fumes in the system that need to be managed for the wellness of the factory workers and things like that. So that's where it'll come really handy, and it's good that you guys are looking at it. The second question that comes to my mind is, are you also measuring? So while you can measure air quality through AQI numbers, so what are the metrics that you're using? So again, coming back to the odor one, if you've got H2S or SO2 odor or methane odor in the environment, do you have the system also measuring that? Or is just the AQI that you are providing back to the users?
Yeah, very good areas that we actually treat. I think there are two parts of your question. One is on the application. Perhaps I can just add to that. We have done projects for residential kind of high-end side. They have quite a lot of smell. Maybe it's because it's close to the waters, and also it could be some sewage, and some of the smell gets into the clubhouse and it's very uncomfortable. And we were able to help that. And then we were also able to help museums in Hong Kong, which are like in the kind of basement type, where the ventilation design was not sufficient. So all the toilets, all the smell being trapped, even in the corridors, we added some circulation fans and be able to treat those. Sorry, I was asked to stop sharing. Yeah, and then in terms of measuring the IAQ, that's a very good question, because we in fact wanted to demonstrate to our end users these IAQ parameters, and in fact we don't make sensors ourselves, so we are sensors agnostic. So currently we're working with a couple of partners. I would say we work with two types of partners. One is more of a marketing type, which still can achieve well standards that would normally measure like the PMs, the TVOCs, and the CO2s. And then we work with also more professional ones, which they would add in more sensors, which also add on to the cost element, unfortunately. But it would measure, like you said, ozone, SO2, formaldehyde, ammonia. So those are like, it is actually really good that the partner of ours actually build these modules. So depending on what developers or owners would like to treat in specific areas. Yeah. So thank you for the question.
Over to you, Gurpreet.
Thank you, Vivek. So thank you, Edward. It was a very nice presentation. And this is a technology that I have been using for the last few years, since 2016, if I'm not mistaken, in multiple projects, whether it was hospitality, F&B outlets, commercial office spaces, refurbished office spaces, meeting rooms. I've utilized it in multiple projects and have found it to be very effective. My concern has been with the installation of these devices at the AHU side. Now, while they support in ionizing the air that is being supplied into the space, the overall humid air, especially in areas like the Middle East, where it gets highly humid, dusty, and hot, the coils themselves tend to foul quite a bit. And I have not found bipolar ionization to be a much effective control for keeping the coils clean and reducing the fouling on that, reducing the mold and bacteria development on the humid coil fins. What I've seen is the UVC emitters provided at the coil have been more effective than bipolar ionization. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, good. I think different region have different requirements. Let us share our experience. I think for our application at the AHU side, first of all, the device that we have is really small. It's kind of a size of the palm. So if we really need to fit inside the air handling unit, the space between the coil and also the drip pan, we can. In fact, we have a manufacturer who can help us fit in these devices. But at the same time, what we find is more effective is to install after the drip pan. So at the supply air side, it would do two things. One is to really clean out the air ducts and then be able to supply ionization in the occupant space. So to answer the question, I think in our projects, in the projects that we have, because of the recirculation of the air, after the air is being cleaned in the occupant side and being recirculated to the air handling unit, effectively that has been treated, and it is treated continuously. So in order to avoid what you mentioned about foil kind of a foul kind of a buildup at the coil or the drip pan. But you are right. I mean, the reason why we install the IAQ sensors in all the occupant space is making sure the air quality is up to the standards of the facility management or to the owner's expectation. We have seen cases. This brings a very good example that I like to share. We go to clients quite a lot. They ask, "Oh, so Edward, how can you help us? Give us a full solution." So great, you know. So all right, it is a full design, but the reality is that we may come up with a kind of a midway or even more of a budget kind of a let's start and see what happens. I think both approach has its merits, pros and cons. We work on both, and then we find out it's not actually a bad way that we start as a preliminary primary kind of supply, and then through the exercise of keeping the air monitor in specific zones, we talk about customized zones, right? We are able to find out some of the areas are not being treated as well. So we go back to the owners and say, okay, what about phase two? Let's list down what are the VVIP or the VIPs that you would like to treat. Well, then if budget allows, then that would be the kind of a phase two kind of implementation. So I think it's a whole exercise of having continuous feedback and having the data. I think that is very important. What differentiates our technologies from others? We want all the data. I think that's what the panel advisors have been doing. You know, all this time, we are trying to not educate, but at least share some of these data of air quality importance, right, for our clients and users. So so that hopefully answers the question.
Thanks, Edward. The other question that I had was with various manufacturers in the market, like industry leaders like Tryon, who have been in the IAQ business for a number of years. How do you differentiate your product from what is provided by organizations like Tryon, Opio in the Middle East and Africa region? How do you compete with those kind of companies?
Okay, I think one of the slide which I shared, because I intentionally put in there because I understand some of you have already come across this technology, so that's why I intentionally put in that slide to address. First of all, this is a cold plasma technology, and so far we have not seen competitors be able to emit such a first of all safe, meaning without ozone kind of emission, and also high concentrated ions, very balanced, very stable supply. So that we haven't seen. That's number one. And then the second one, I think more importantly, is the needle point technology, because what bipolar ionization really has the disadvantage is it can, and there's a number of technology that can emit ions, but it all depends on the kind of surface area it would require and the kind of electricity voltage, high voltage or not, right? So because of the unique needle point technology, so the surface area of attracting particles or water droplets to affect the performance is very small. And at the same time, because the device self-cleans itself every 24 hours. So we have facility managers ask us, so, okay, so how long is this last? Is it similar to like the UV light? So we change every 15,000 hours, which is 1.5 years, or other bipolar ionization device, I have to shut down the whole, operation every 3 months. I have to clean the surface area and also change the components. And then we said, no, we don't need all that. We can comfortably sit in air ducts, keeping the same performance for 8 to 10 years plus. So so from a sales perspective, it is not good for us because that means we have to repeat sales. But at least for the clients, I mean, it's something that they don't need to worry too much of the upcoming maintenance.
Thank you, Edward.
So it seems that this is a install and forget kind of a device. Is that correct to understand?
Sorry, is it
Yeah, it seems to me that this is an install and forget kind of device.
Install and forget. That brings up a good point, because we did mention something that we like our customers, no matter how small these days. Even the budget does not allow. We visit. We have clients like in schools, organization. They don't have a lot of big budget. But the technology, right, is amazing nowadays. These sensors that they can still connect to the cloud is not that expensive, and they can still afford it. And then we like them to monitor it, to see it. And in fact, we have customers from schools, which they are not experts, but they are not experts in the field of the engineering side or the air quality maintenance. The more they learn about from the dashboard, with the report that we provide to them, they felt, oh, wow, now they are able to see the difference, and they are asking more questions. In fact, we are working with a manufacturer to do a solution which is on the CO2, smart CO2 removal. So, in spaces, especially in Hong Kong, space is quite dense. In a classroom, you're talking about maybe 30 students in a 100 square meter or less space, and the CO2 can actually build up. And when we are young, right, no teacher or parents will tell us that, why are you falling asleep in the classroom, right? So, with these kind of sensors in place, it automatically kicks in the fresh air to take out the CO2s. I think that is also what we are aiming to help. Other than, at the same time, when they bring in the fresh air, we want it to be clean as well. So we put in our bipolar ionization device at the end of it.
So a couple of questions actually come to my mind. The first is, since you mentioned CO2, and in Hong Kong, in classrooms, it tends to build up. I mean, whether it's Hong Kong or India or wherever it is, it just tends to build up. We all fall asleep in class. Question is there a way that you measure how much you neutralize that carbon CO2, and then would that be contributing to your carbon footprint?
Yeah, unfortunately, the bipolar ionization is not that amazing. The CO2, the chemical bonding itself is very strong, and it's not able to take down the CO2. But quite interestingly, since you mentioned the CO2, on the footprint on energy side, as we know, the more occupants grows over time, CO2 increase, and also the VOC increase, correct? According to the ASHRAE, right? The 62.x, right? The standards. So what we observe is that since bipolar ionization technology can control the VOC quite well, so we are in fact helping the building to save energy by pulling in fresh air and then to chill the air in a warmer environment. So yeah, so that's actually in our roadmap this year to have some use case, some data points that we can share with specialists like yourself to help us validate, because that would actually be the next step to really help property owners to make decision more quicker, I would say.
Yeah, no, but I don't know how well, or I would leave the technology up to you guys, but to my mind, you already have the technology that is bipolar. Is there a way that you can, I know the bond of C and O2 is quite strong, but is there a way that you can loosen the bond and therefore outstrip or generate oxygen out of CO2 and drop the carbon on a filter maybe, and that will be your carbon footprint? And that to me is amazing. If through ionization, if you can really break that bond. I mean, you don't have to plant a tree that converts CO2 to oxygen through photosynthesis. But the point is that if you've got polarization and there's enough power in that to break the bond, then that is like next level. And
yes,
that drives the CO2, right? That drives the carbon footprint. And you can actually say that you have actually reduced the amount of CO2 in classes, and children are now wide awake. The other question that comes to my mind is that how do you measure the actual effectiveness of this? While we have all the standards, the well standards, and all of the metrics, but in real terms, you go to a customer and customer says, so okay, two questions. One, customer says, well, my AQI has to be 2 or 0. I mean, you can't have AQI at 0. it's not possible. It is possible, but for a short duration of time. The point is, then you educate the customer saying these are the standards in a fit out or in an office space or schools or whatever. But the question now comes is that while education is one, how are you measuring that? Measuring the real effectiveness of, better air quality in terms of number of people who have gone sick or number of influenza cases, or because in people terms. So one is on the metrics terms, right? We all know how to drive metrics. But in terms of people terms, have you done some studies saying when we install Monitair, our influenza level goes down by 100% or say 90% or whatever it is?
Yeah, First of all, thanks for the advice. You gave us a homework item on the CO2, try to break the carbon. So we would, for sure, the research team can help look at that. We all want to help the environment, right? To help on that aspect. And in terms of the effectiveness, you mentioned about I think at the moment we are very much focused on the questions generated. Which the first type of a gatekeeper, which you can imagine would be the engineering, the E&M, the HVAC consultants, right? They would ask us questions. A lot of questions come in would be, so first of all, how can you help? How can we improve the air quality and also so-called, getting rid of the virus and the bacteria, the pathogens. So the first part will be, okay, through the third-party labs, we have actually done real cases where swab tests of bacteria, do the counting and all that. So property developers are quite happy. We were able to help them achieve, even within the excellent level, we had helped them achieve even more than that, exceeding the level. So they're quite happy that we can both treat the airborne and the surface type of viruses. But back to the question of facility side, they would normally ask, and then we would say, because of bipolar ionization can help on the PM reduction and also the TVOC. So we have done quite a lot of trial studies with developers. In fact, yesterday we were just at a briefing at a hospital where we set it up in an elevator environment. We put our sensors in there. We turn off the machine for 2 weeks. We turn on the machine for 2 weeks. We tell them the difference. The difference on PM, we can reduce about 30%. In terms of TVOC, we can reduce 20%. And they would ask, oh, well, the PM naturally, right, bringing the fresh air can help dilute it. So what is this? So we show them, the non-operating hours, the ones that you do not have the bipolar ionization turn on. Normally, for example, the one slide I recall, it takes about 7 hours to reduce 80% of it, the PM. And then for, once our device is on, it takes about 1 hour to reduce 90%. So the amount of time is reduced. So in fact, that can be further studied. Which is it okay after the first hour, the environment is quite clean, can the fresh air introduction, or based on the CO2 level, the occupancy, can we turn down a little bit and then try to save some energy? So yeah, it's quite interesting. We do quite a lot of these trial cases, and we collect quite a lot of data. And when we need professionals like yourselves and including Ravin, in making or controlling the HVAC equipment, and then show the results to our owners, the actual footprint, right? How to best or optimize the use of the equipment.
Okay, super. Thank you so much.
Thank you. But on the people side, I didn't answer. We try very hard. I think we're still asking the schools to give us some of the sick leave records. But unfortunately, because of the COVID, some study from home and all that, But yeah, that would be very meaningful. And thank you for that advice. It is something that would be more presentable, I would think, in human terms.
And you don't need to provide, I mean, while there may be some level of SPI, as in personal information getting collected, but point is that on a ballpark percentage basis, all of that gets neutralized. So you get to know you reduced sickness by 15% in school, right? Before and after. So that is really powerful from a company standpoint. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Vivek.
It has been a fantastic session. I love the feedback that Gurpreet and Vivek shared, and also the recommendations to improve the product further. I think that is really, really amazing. And it's good to see that Gurpreet has been using this technology in different setup for quite some time, almost 7, 8 years now, Gurpreet. So that's really, really good to know. But again, thanks everybody for your time. Special thanks to Edward, Gurpreet, Ravindra, and Vivek for this interesting interactive session. And I think we should reconnect soon to see how we can collaborate together, how we can help each other growing and take it from there. Okay, thanks everybody again. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Okay.
Pleasure meeting you, Vivek.
Thank you, everyone.
Edward.
Thank you.
Bye, Madhu.